Hi, this is my review of The Battlefield Miniature Modern Warfare. The Battlefield seeks to emulate the action and excitement that you find in games such as Call of Duty, Ghost Recon, but it also has a very strong real-time strategy game feel to it. So if you enjoy video games, you're going to like this game a lot. And even if you don't, it's still a simulation of modern warfare as well. Now, let's talk about the quality of the PDF. When you purchase the Battlefield, you get three files. You have a quick reference sheet, so you have a smooth and fast gameplay experience. And you also have a frequently asked questions sheet. So if there's something that isn't quite clear in the rules, you will probably find the answer there. And the rule book is very well written and structured. And you have all these cool pictures of some are from real life battlefield situations, and you also have some pictures using miniatures and scenery. So all the pictures add a lot to the theme of the game, and you have the information of the miniatures that were used in those pictures. So that's quite useful. If you are interested in the miniatures, you will know where to get them. And the document is fully bookmarked. The quality overall is great. Now, let's talk about the contents of the PDF. This game, in order to be successful at playing this game, you have to keep in mind four key concepts, in my opinion. The first concept is command action points. And this is basically a currency, so you can purchase your actions and give commands and complete tasks. You also need to keep in mind tactical objectives, which are basically locations and places that you need to capture and take control of, and this will give you more command action points. And the more command points you have, well, the more tactical freedom that you will have as well. And then you have the strategic objectives, and these are my favorites. These are basically locations or objects that when you capture them, they unlock things for your army. So for example, maybe there's this sort of like a storage house where you have more weapons or some sort of new technology, or maybe there's a hangar or some sort of vehicle storage place where you can find air vehicles and tanks and such. So those are quite cool, and I think a lot of players will enjoy the race when you're trying to get to that objective first before your opponent. That's quite nice. And the overdrive system is probably what will determine the outcome of almost all battles, at least from a mechanical perspective of taking the rules as a whole, because the overdrive allows you to perform more things that you would normally be able to by spending additional command action points. That's why it's so important to gain to have more command action points. This basically means that, for example, once you move a unit or a squad, if you want to move it further, you need to pay additional command action points. And the cool thing is that you don't need to move a unit or a squad and that's it. You can alternate between your different units and squads. So for example, maybe you want to move this squad over here behind cover, and now that this squad is covering this one, maybe you decide to mobilize this other squad and such, and that gives a lot of that real-time strategy feel to the game. It doesn't feel like you're static. It feels like everything is in motion, in a way of speaking. And this game consists of unopposing die rolls. So every attack feels quite active. You're not just waiting to see what happens. It really feels like a confrontation with your opponent. And you resolve actions by rolling six-sided dice. Results of 4, 5, and 6 count as successes, and 1, 2, and 3 count as failures. So you need to get as much successes as possible. The profiles for the different units and squads are quite simple. You just need to be aware of the information of how much your unit can move, and the range of the attacks, the defense value, attack value, and such. So this is not a game that feels like it's being slowed down by a lot of bookkeeping. In fact, when you suffer wounds and losses, you use tokens when it's a unit that can take damage, but if it's a squad, you take away models as you suffer damage. So that's quite handy, and it's a lot of it feels like really fast, like the game is in constant motion. And you have details and rules for almost anything that you can imagine, but it doesn't feel like it's cumbersome or that it's too tedious. Everything feels, it's just, I keep getting that a feeling of intense, fast-paced gaming action. So you have different types of units and different types of weaponry and vehicles, and you'll think how to use each one of those appropriately. You don't have just a single unit that can steamroll its way through everything. Even if you have a few tanks, if the opponent has a well-positioned squad of anti-tank units, you're going to lose that one. So it's all about tactics and strategy, and you'll have to keep your eyes open to capture things, taking control of terrain, succeeding at the different objectives according to a scenario that you are playing. And you also have rules to spot hidden units, many details on terrain, movement, on destroying terrain. And I also like how the different types of vehicles integrate with the other elements of the game. So, for example, you have rules on to parachute out of an airplane, and you have rules of what happens when a tank starts moving around certain terrain, and you have a really nice selection of different vehicles. You have bikes, you have Humvees, different types of aerial vehicles, helicopters, and such, and rules on how to disembark and embark, and everything it's just very easy to understand and to apply during gameplay. And you have different types of squads and units. You have sniper rifle teams, special ops teams. They thought Brent pretty much thought about almost everything when it comes to modern warfare. And the cool thing about this game is that the theme is quite generic, so you could modify and tweak a few things and maybe turn this game into a sci-fi game if you wanted to, or turn it a bit more old-fashioned or old school. Maybe you want to play a World War II or World War I game. It's quite easy to do so. In fact, you have a few suggestions on how to turn this game into some like a zombie game. If you wanted to play like soldiers versus zombies, you can do that. And you even have information on how to play this game as a role-playing game, just enough advice on how to do that. And I think this game is quite easy to use to replace a war system in your favorite RPG if you're not satisfied with that system's war mechanics. You can use this game for that. And you have a lot of advanced rules with more details on, for example, on suppression and overwatch, and different information about artillery strikes, fog of war, and all that. So it's quite, this game is as deep as you wanted it to be. If you want to play like a simple game, you don't need to use all the rules. But if you want to use all the different types of grenades and all the different factors and variables that have to do with when you're using your mortar, or maybe you are mobilizing medics through a minefield, you have all the tools and information to play that specific segment of a war scenario. And you have examples of the different missions that you can carry out or take. So each game will feel quite fresh, and you have information to play with several teams of players, or just a couple of players. It's quite adjustable to the number of players that you have. And in my opinion, well, I haven't played with a lot of players, but it feels like the rules adjust quite easily to maybe up to 4 or 6 players, in my opinion, when it comes to fast and smooth experience. Although with all of those details and advanced rules, I still didn't find them too cumbersome. So you can probably play with up to 8 or more players, and it will still be quite smooth. And you even have some scenarios that feel, have that strong video game vibe, such as capture the flag and deathmatch and such. And well, let me tell you what I think of this game. This is a very cool game, and I think it shares a few similarities with some of the other games designed by Brent Spivey, such as Rogue Planet and Mayhem, but it still feels its own thing, and that's quite surprising and pleasing that all the Brent Spivey games feel unique in their own ways. And again, because this game has a very open theme, you can make it as you wanted it to be. If you want a certain theme or a certain context, it's quite easy to color this game with whatever you want. And I also find it quite interesting how this game contains all those different advanced rules and still feels quite fast and quite exciting at times when you start mobilizing your squads and you made a mistake, but you actually survive that mistake. It's just quite exciting. Well, thanks for watching my review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. See you later.